So finding the vertex is that highest or lowest point that connects kind of those two sides to our parabola. So the formula for vertex, this is the x. So the x formula is negative b over 2a. So that ax squared plus bx plus c. So that's where we kind of label and figure out those a's and b's. And then when you find the x, you go to the original equation and you just plug in that number for x. All right, so finding the vertex. So first we need to use our formula to get our x. So we need to label our a's and b's. So a is that number in front of x squared. So what is that? That's positive 1. And then what's the b? The number in front of x. So b is negative 8. Now use our formula. So x equals negative, what was my b? Negative 8. Put it in parentheses so you can see the double negatives. And then 2 times a. So what's my a? Positive 1. So 2 negatives make a positive 8. 2 times 1 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my x coordinate for my vertex, because we're plotting points, is 4. So we need to figure out what's the y. So we're going to use this 4 and go back to our original equation, and we're going to plug in 4 instead of x squared. So f of x, remember that's our y. So instead of x, plug in 4 squared minus 8 times 4 minus 1. Now solve. 4 squared is 16 minus 32. And then 16 minus 32 is negative 16 minus 1. So that's negative 17 f of x, which is actually y, right? So the y is negative 17. So that is my vertex. Now looking at my equation, let's just for fun, is this equation going to be opening up or down? So to figure that out, look at your a. Was our a positive or negative? It's positive, so I know that my vertex is going to be at that center point, and it's going to be opening up because the a was positive. All right, let's look at b. So same thing, use our formula to find the vertex. So before we can do that, we need to label our a's and b's. So what's my a? Negative 1. And what's my b? Negative 4. Now using our a's and b's, let's plug in our vertex formula. So negative b at the top. So I have negative 4 over 2 comma a. So 2 comma negative 1. Let's solve. 2 negatives make a positive 4. And then 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. So my vertex, my first number is negative 2. And then my second, I start all over. So I'm going to use the equation, and I'm going to plug in x for negative 2. So I have f of x, which is really just y. So it's really y equals negative. So negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 plus 3. Now negative 2 squared is positive 4. But then we have that negative on the outside, so it turns back into a negative 4. Then negative 4 times negative 2. 2 negatives make a positive 8. So negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4. And then 4 plus 3 is positive 7. So my vertex is negative 2 comma 7. Now, is this parabola going to be opening up or down? Well, let's look at A. Is A positive or A negative? A is negative. So I know that my parabola is going to be opening down because our A was negative. All right, so let's look at C. Again, our first step is to label our A's and B's. So our A is -4 and our B is -8. So use your equation. Let's find the X. So negative. Now what was my B? -8. Put it in parentheses. And then over 2 comma A. So 2 comma -4. All right, 2 negatives make a +8 at the top, and then 2 times -4 is -8. So my X is -1. So for my vertex, X is -1. Now, use your -1 and go back to the original equation and plug in X for -1, because that will give us the Y. So -4 times -1 squared minus 8 times -1 minus 5. So -1 squared is +1. So then -4 times +1 is -4. -8 times -1 is +8. So then I have -4 plus 8 is +4 minus 5. So it's -1. Y equals -1. So my vertex is -1 comma -1. Now, is my parabola going to be opening up or down? So look at A. Is A positive or A is negative? A is negative. So this parabola will be opening down. All right, the last example in our notes, example 3. So now we're going to add graphing. So we're going to graph our quadratic function. So we need to find the vertex and our x-intercept and y-intercept. See if it has any. All right, so always our first step, label your A's and B's. So my A is +1 and my B is +6. So plug in for our vertex, x equals -b, so -6 over 2a. So -6 equals, -6 divided by 2 equals -3. So my vertex, first number is -3. Now I need to find the y. So we're going to use that -3 for x and plug it into our original equation. So -3 squared plus 6 times -3 plus 8. So y equals -3 squared is +9. 6 times -3 is 18. And then go left to right. 9 minus 18 is -9 plus 8. Y equals -1. So my vertex is -3 comma -1. All right, so I'm going to do the y-intercept first because that's the easiest. That's when we plug in because it's opposite. X equals 0. So we're going to use our equation and y equals, or that f of x, remember they can interchange. Now plug in 0. 0 squared plus 6 times 0 plus 8. Well, 0 squared is 0. 6 times 0 is 0. So our y-intercept equals 8. So this is 0 comma 8 for the y-intercept. All right, so for my x-intercept, this is where I make y equals 0 and I factor. I do my t-chart, grouping, and then set each parenthesis equal to 0. So this is the longer one. So 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. This is the AC method. List all of our factors of 8. Which ones add up to 6 is 2 and 4. Put an x behind it and rewrite the middle. So x squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 8. Group them. Group the first two, group the second two. Find the GCFs. So the first GCF is x. Divide x from this first group. So I'm left with x plus 2. Bring down the middle sign. What do they have in common? Well, the highest GCF is 4. Divide 4. And then you're left with x plus 2. Do our parentheses match? Absolutely. So we only need one, so that x plus 2. And then that second parenthesis is combining our GCF. What was our first GCF? X. And our second is plus 4. So now we need to take each parenthesis and set it equal to 0. So x plus 2 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and solve for my two intercepts. So my first intercept is -2, so that's a coordinate. So it's going to be -2, 0, right? Because we are plotting points. Then subtract your 4. So my second x-intercept is -4, and put it as an ordered pair. So -4, 0. So these are your two x-intercepts. So we're going to graph, starting with our vertex. Graph the -3, -1, -3, -1. That's our vertex. So looking at our equation, is our parabola going to go up or down? So A is +1, so I know my parabola is going to go up. So it should look like that. Now let's do our x and y intercepts. So our intercept was 0, 8. So that's the y-intercept. And then our two x-intercepts, -0, -2, 0, and -4, 0. And then you can draw your lines and your parabola.